All right, district breakdown time. We are starting off the season. We're going to talk private school ranks with my main man, Jon Poorman from the Houston Chronicle. John always loves it when I want to talk football 4 months before anything even starts, but that's what we're doing, John. You got to be ready for it. You got to be on your toes. We're
I'm
talking
always
private.
ready.
You're always ready, aren't you? We're talking private schools, and how are things looking in the TAPPS classification for the Houston area? Do we have any potential title? I know we got the tough ones in DFW with the Parish Episcopals and Plano Prestonwoods of the world, but do we have some guys that can kind of maybe stand out and make a run at it?
Yeah, one team in particular that I'm really looking at is St. Thomas. Obviously, they had a great season this past year. They had a guy by the name of Dante Lewis move in from Shadow Creek at quarterback. And this is a really talented two-sport athlete. He plays baseball as well. And he was just a phenomenal player for them at the quarterback position this past year. Had a lot to do with their success and what they were able to accomplish. Obviously, they would have liked to have pushed further in the playoffs, but Lewis is coming back as a senior this next season, and he's going to be the catalyst for that offense once again. Making plays with his arm and with his legs, he can really do it all. So, anytime you have that stability at that position, especially at the private school ranks, that makes a big difference a lot of times. And so, St. Thomas, I'm really bullish on going into this next season, just because of Lewis. And obviously they've got some other talented players coming back as well, but he's a difference maker and a playmaker. Looking at Fort Bend Christian and what they've done under Coach Jordan Black here in recent years has been really impressive. Of course, the big loss there is quarterback Brady Devers moving on. So that's a big void to fill, but as a program, they have a lot of talent. They have some defensive players, that are really talented and up and coming players, up and coming stars potentially. And they're going to be pretty good on that side of the ball. I think it's just a matter of, of course, with wide receiver Brian Domino also leaving, it's going to be, trying to find those pieces in the passing game and replacing Dever is going to be, a tough task because, he was so prolific in their passing game over the past several years. So those are two programs for sure that I'm looking at going into next year. I mean, Fort Bend Christian, with them winning their first ever state title, I mean, what an accomplishment. And like I said before, Jordan Black has really turned that program into a perennial contender.
Excellent. Yeah, that was quite a scene when they won that thing last year. We had a chance to be down there with their cameras. Uh, let's move on to SPC. We had Kincaid in the championship game yet again. They won it, playing against Bel Air Episcopal. It's a different animal with SPC because you only got the 4 games and then the championships right after the last week of the season. Any of our teams in the Houston area looking good for this year?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the defending 4A champions in Kincaid, as you mentioned. They're all out of Bell Brothers now. Dylan was a star this past year. Dylan was a star 2 years ago, and then Micah really took the mantle from him there last year. Now at Georgia and Notre Dame, respectively. So that losing Micah is a big loss, obviously, but they've got some talent over there, and they're always going to be in the mix. They always are, right along with their big rival Episcopal. I mean, they've got quarterback Carson Gordon coming back. He had an outstanding season this past year after transferring from Ridgepoint. So I would look for those two teams in 4A to definitely make some noise and perhaps meet again for another SBC championship game. And then, of course, at 3A, we have the two-time defending champion, John Cooper Dragons. I mean, I was up in Montgomery County when this program first started, several years ago, about 10, 12 years ago. And just to see the growth that this program has made in such a short time is really impressive. And then, finally, playing in three straight SBC championship games, and then finally, coming away with some hardware for the last two. I mean, just really impressive what Coach Eric DeHaven has done since he's taken over the program. They, of course, are losing some talented players, but they're in a good position as a program where they've been able to develop kids, and you've seen it over the past few years. new faces stepping in and delivering. So I wouldn't be worried about the Dragons at all. I fully expect them to be really competitive there in SBC 3A.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Leach, and he seems to think Cooper might be bumped up next year after the next realignment to 4A, which 4A really kind of needs some more teams. So that's a tough conference where you have to have just the 5, and then you got to get at it. So should be interesting to see. Next week we're going to talk lower classifications, 4A and lower. I'm going to pick your brain and see what teams you think might step out. You talked about no more Bell Brothers to talk about. You can't talk about Ruben Owens anymore either. So you're going to have to find somebody else to talk about, Johnny.
Yep, sounds good.
We'll talk to you next week.